Okay, these are the notes for Chapter 6, Microblogging. We'll be talking a lot in this chapter about Twitter. But let's take a look at microblogging as a concept in and of itself. To define the term, microblogging is a form of blogging with the main difference between significant limits on the length of a post, typically consisting of short sentences and links. Microblogging refers to broadcasting brief messages to some or all members of the sender's social network through a specific web-based service. Platforms enforce a limit to restrict the length of users' posts and force ideas to be communicated succinctly. So microblogging is not the place for you to expound in great detail on all sorts of different things. It's an opportunity for you to get something out in a short, sweet, to-the-point sort of fashion. You maybe provide a link to something that will give a little more detail, but it's basically the immediate, almost kind of a headline sort of, this is exactly what's going on at this particular moment. This is exactly what you need to know for right now. Microblogging provides that immediate ability to communicate rather short, succinct thoughts. MWOM, otherwise known as microblogging word of mouth, means that microblogging has the ability to accelerate word of mouth communications through social network. And this is what is often called the Twitter effect. So it is, again, a great way to very quickly communicate a message and for that message to quickly be shared through the communication platform. Twitter was built for those that can be thought of as power users who use many of its features and rely on the real-time aspect of the application. So the idea of being a social influencer, many of them use a tool like Twitter in order to have that influencer sort of status. And it is that place that people go to check out what people are thinking right now. Take a look at a brief history of microblogging. The earliest ancestors of microblogs were referred to as tumble logs and contained links of stream of consciousness posts, all in quick succession. So it's the idea, again, of just getting out what's going on at this moment, what's going on at this moment, what's going on at this moment. And the advent of Twitter, as we know it today, came out in 2006 and has been the predominant microblogging site, but there are several other ones out there. There's a chart in your textbook if you're interested in checking out some of those. Same sort of thing that we talked about with Facebook, where there are different platforms that are popular, especially in other countries around the world. So if you're dealing with an international audience, you may want to keep that in mind. But by and large, Twitter tends to be what is the most popular, at least in the free world. Microblogging has evolved into an important source of news and citizen journalism. The ease of posting and sharing allows relevant news to reach interested groups quickly. Some examples from recent history include tweets concerning elections that were going on in the country of Iran and the death of Osama bin Laden. The way the news broke out on that was through Twitter. Some different uses for microblogging. Its purpose could be broken down into two main divisions. First off, to convey information, again, to do so quickly and succinctly. Also, to start a discussion or to participate in an ongoing conversation where you can give very quick insight or input into a topic that is being discussed. The give and take nature of the format makes Twitter and other microblogging platforms a very multi-directional communication medium. So it is the fact that things are being shared in quick fashion. People are able to quickly respond. In that sort of way, it does mimic the way that we communicate with others in real live time, if we're in person, if we're on the telephone, that sort of thing. In that aspect, Twitter does give us the ability to try to have those types of conversations. 6 different categories of microblog posts would include these. First off, the classic tweet. This is what I'm doing right now. I'm speaking to you on a microphone. I'm eating dinner. I'm going for a walk. Opinion tweets. This is what I'm thinking now. You should be able to share your thoughts and opinions. Mission accomplished tweets. This is what I've just done. Be able to post and say, looky what I did. Entertainment tweets. I'm making you laugh now, or cry now, or get angry now. You're trying to evoke some sort of an emotion and trying to appeal to somebody for some sort of entertainment value. Question tweets. Can you help me do something now? Be able to pose questions and get instant feedback on the things that you're wondering about. Finally, picture tweets. Look at what I've been doing. And that can encompass a lot of different areas by showing the picture or graphic or what have you. Selecting the proper ratio between them is where much of the artistry behind microblog marketing is involved. Which type of tweet is the best to be able to communicate your message and to be able to reach your goals for your audience? While some personal what's happening posts are good to establish a human voice for the purposes of social media marketing, the other 5 categories we talked about will probably be used more frequently. As marketers, we are trying to use social media to be able to get information about our customer base and about our users, to try to appeal to things that they are interested in, to be able to meet their needs and desires and demands. And in that aspect, some of the other types of posts that are available to us besides just what's happening right now may be beneficial not just to them in terms of what they're looking for, but beneficial to us in terms of being able to expand our presence and expand our brand. All right, why is there so much focus on Twitter? The platform has a number of advantages for a clever social media marketing team. Some of those include the fact that it takes less time to be able to reach large numbers of readers on Twitter, with millions and millions and millions of users on the platform, those that follow us. It's very easy for someone to send out a tweet, whether you're sitting at your computer, you're using your smartphone. It only takes a few seconds to be able to have that instant conversation and that instant reach to your followers. The ability to directly contact other users with thoughts or questions invites a more interactive and engaging strategy. It's that really taking on that aspect of creating a conversation and allowing the dialogue to happen in the course of the social media platform. Twitter can draw attention from high-profile people and connect with opinion leaders in a variety of industries. And with the connection aspect of that, when somebody tweets something and includes somebody's name or handle within a tweet, it creates a certain amount of association, may give a certain amount of credibility depending on who is initiating that tweet, and kind of creates that community where someone is willing to connect with somebody else, to connect their name with somebody else, and helps to be able to bring that person along with them in terms of that association. Success from microblogging can indeed be a heady experience. However, failure is publicized and very sobering, so it is wise to enter with a plan and some basic guidelines in order to avoid mistakes. Just like every other platform, just like every other strategy we talk about, you have to have a plan to know how you are going to use that particular piece of social media, that particular piece of internet communication in an effective way for your audience and for your brand. All right, building your brand online. Search to gather information. One of Twitter's powerful features is the ability to search users, posts, and subjects. A topic that receives many tweets is obviously important to most people. Things that are trending, things that are happening now. If you see that a hashtag is being used by a lot of different people, a lot of folks are talking about that topic. When beginning a social media marketing campaign, start using Twitter by looking up a brand name, looking up a competition to that brand name, and what is being said about each. It helps you to be able to listen for the conversation that is already happening, and for you to be able to develop a strategy to be able to contribute to that conversation, to perhaps respond to certain things that are going on in that dialogue. The ease of topic searching, aided by hashtags, and we know what hashtags are. It's the pound symbol or the number sign immediately followed by a string of letters. Being able to click on that hashtag will show all sorts of different tweets associated with that same topic. And it makes being able to research certain things much easier, especially when many people are using the same hashtag. It's also a way for marketers to be able to encourage people to talk about things by getting them to use a certain hashtag so that it's easy for the marketer to be able to look that up and be able to see the dialogue that's going on. Know the audience. Twitter, with its easily searched database of faces attached to personal interests and hobbies, provides an optimal arena to study and develop different user personas. Now, how do you do this? First off, find one person whose profile seems to exemplify that certain persona that you're looking for. Then look at the list of similar people to follow. Twitter provides that, and usually there's going to be some sort of association in that way. Kind of like, if you like this person over here, then you will like these other people and want to follow and associate with them. So it makes it very easy to try to build up a list of people that you want to try to have associated with you and that you want to associate with. The demographics on Twitter do not necessarily reflect those of the general public. However, Twitter tends to attract a much more younger audience. Twitter also tends to attract more African Americans and Hispanics. So that is one thing to keep in mind when you are reaching out for certain demographics, that perhaps people that you are looking for on a particular platform may not be there or be there as prominently. Twitter does tend to have an overall younger following. And along with that younger following, there's going to be other demographic data that is going to be associated with that younger following. So keep that in mind, depending on the brand, depending on the organization that you're representing. All right, let's take a look at the profile page now and how to make that work for you. Looking at the profile is the most research that a Twitter user will do before deciding to follow or not. So it makes sense that you want your profile to truly represent who you are and the message that you're trying to convey. A good profile page will help to develop a solid following and also provide external benefits such as views to the main site and more interest in the marketed product. The more information you can provide, and of course you have to keep in mind some of the limitations of numbers of characters and that sort of thing. Be straightforward, to the point, and provide as much as you can. It is going to be of benefit to you when people look at your profile. Select a good avatar picture, which will appear next to every tweet. The avatar should be recognizable and eye-catching for best results. Now, a couple things to keep in mind here, that because of the personal aspect of the medium, you may not necessarily want to use the logo for your brand. Many times people will associate better on Twitter with faces as opposed to logos. But the face is also going to need to be something that is going to be able to be recognizable with that particular brand. So you want to keep that in mind as well. As you're doing that, be thinking about what might be a good avatar to be able to use for the page that you're setting up. A custom-made background image can display personality, longer explanation of the product or service, and past accomplishments. The background is also a place to put URLs for other social networking profiles, websites, or blogs. So if you're savvy with graphics software, you can take a photo or a graphic and try to include other sorts of information that would be there on that background image and be able to showcase all sorts of other information that you might not be able to put in the profile itself that will be of interest to those that follow you. Tweet content. On a Twitter feed, it is especially easy to miss tweets that do not immediately catch the eye. So in this case, you do want to make sure that you are choosing what you say carefully. I mean, we only have 280 characters to begin with, so we're limited in that sort of scope. But we also want to make sure that what we say, the word choice that we use, the way that we put the information out there is going to be something that is going to be attractive to people as they scroll by. In other words, if an account does not provide appealing content, users will ignore it. As a golden rule, the best content is content that is interesting and fun and valuable. So think about when you're putting something out there as a tweet. Is it something that you would be interested in if you were a customer or if you were a fan? And you have to think about it from the perspective of those that would be viewing the content. Just because you are passionate about something doesn't necessarily mean that they will be. Creating valuable content is complex because it must be both timely and relevant. So by keeping a balance between the different categories that we talked about earlier, we'll make the content fresher and more engaging. You don't always just want to post pictures. You don't always want to just ask questions. You want to have a good balance of all sorts of different types of posts so that, again, it feels more personal, that there's someone that's actually kind of thinking and breathing, that's typing these things into the Twitter feed so that true conversation and engagement can happen. Don't cover too many different topics in quick succession, I should say. Having multiple streams of thought going at once can make replies from followers confusing and can prevent outside viewers from understanding the overall messages. Because of the flow of thought that happens in a Twitter feed, you don't want to jump from thought to thought to thought to thought, and they all be very different from each other. This is not the place to have issues with ADD, as it were. You want to try to keep posts related, especially when they are posts that are very close to each other, so that it does work more like a conversation. Distributing links to interesting articles, images, or websites can be valuable to readers and draw a positive response. However, sharing a link is no guarantee anyone will visit it, especially if the content is poorly described, is uninteresting, or seems unworthy. What is really good here is to make sure that you have a title that very clearly defines what that link is all about. Especially if you are using something like a shortened URL, something like from tinyurl.com. Where you just get a bunch of strings of letters and numbers, and that is your link. You want to make sure for sure that you're describing what it is that you're providing a link to. Look at how many retweets are being given out. Twitter users retweet content that they enjoy or are willing to vouch for, so it is a signal of approval when a retweet occurs. People are going to share things that they find interesting, fascinating, humorous, touching, emotional. Make sure your content does one or more of those things so that your content will be retweeted and more people will be able to see it. Building a Twitter following. Users only receive tweets in their feed from people that they are following. So again, the power of the power of the retweet is very significant for us, because if a user retweets what we have, other users, those that are following that person, will be able to see what we have posted. Strategies to gain Twitter followers. There's 3 different ones that the book talks about. The first one is the mass follow strategy. The mass follow strategy is when one follows lots of other profiles and hope that those folks decide to follow back, which may seem like a good thing, kind of, I'll scratch your back, you scratch mine. But there are some pitfalls in using that kind of a strategy. First off, the technical aspect. Twitter blocks users from following more than 2,000 profiles unless they are also being followed by a similar number. And this is a policy that Twitter has in order to keep people from using the platform as spam. So, you don't want to be following too many people unless you're starting to see that number of people follow you. It also kind of makes a measure of creating some some verification that you are as popular as you are claiming to be. The practical aspect. Most of the users who follow back automatically will be mass marketers or spammers who will never read tweets from profiles that they follow. And this makes followers gained from this strategy pretty much worthless, because the point is that you want followers to read your tweets and to be impacted by the tweets, not just let them fill their particular feed. The equal ratio strategy. The equal ratio strategy aims to keep the profiles that one is following and one's follower counts as close to equal as possible. Now, in this case, the profile will only follow users who seem likely to follow back, and it will also follow back all followers that it gets. Seems like a good idea, nice, safe approach, but this can take a good bit of time to make it work and make it become effective. It's a very slow approach, so it is something that you will have to invest a good deal of time in doing, especially when you're starting from zero. Third strategy is kind of a middle ground between the two that we've talked about, the targeted follow strategy. And there's 3 main steps here that we're going to discuss when it comes to the targeted follow strategy. First step is to search for and follow a few profiles that have similar interests and ideas, or profiles that already have members of the target audience following them. Now, this might mean if you are working a business page that you may follow some of your competition. Yeah, you just might do that. So first off, as you're searching for people to follow, you want to focus more on the content and interests, and don't necessarily be overly concerned about following someone that is unlikely to return the favor immediately, because what you're trying to do is get your name out there. One of the ways to do that is that you can follow somebody, then mention in your tweet that you are following somebody. Use the hashtag #NowFollowing, mention them, give a link to them, and there's a good chance that maybe, just maybe, you'll be followed back. Now, the advantage of following relevant accounts with similar topics of interest is granted by Twitter's Suggested People feature. Users see lists of similar accounts as well as suggested people to follow based on which profiles they view and follow themselves. This feature can lead interested viewers back to related profiles. Again, if you like person A, you may like person B because there's some similarities there. So that's stage one, looking for people to follow and being strategic about who you follow. The second stage of the targeted follow strategy is a little more passive. It's choosing which profiles to follow back. Twitter accounts with few followers tend to lack credibility, and they also draw in followers more slowly. So don't risk losing the first few followers that you get. There's value to those first few. Make sure that you're creating compelling content for those that are currently following your feed. Ultimately, the goal of the targeted follow strategy is to draw in followers who will read and respond to messages, or who will become future recommenders or sources of expertise. In this respect, the quality of followers is far more important than quantity. You don't necessarily want to follow anyone and everyone, again, because of that limit rule that Twitter has. So you do want to be somewhat selective in the people that you follow back in terms of whether you will truly be effective in being able to reach them with your content, and that the content that they provide to you will be of value as well. Stage number 3, synergize with other communication media to draw existing contacts into the Twitter following. It is possible to easily integrate Twitter and Facebook together. Other social media platforms also have integration tools that may be helpful for you. You might also want to consider assembling a string of tweets into a blog post. It'll draw attention to the Twitter page, as well as providing an easy, interesting blog update. To be able to see all those things brought together in one nice, neat little package. You can also attach the Twitter handle that you use to your business cards, your email signatures, to other outbound communications to let people know, hey, by the way, I'm on Twitter. And just by putting that information out there, they may look you up, check out your profile, and follow you. All right, some best practices for creating an effective Twitter channel. First off, self-promote, but self-promote cautiously. Don't assume that Twitter users will care about product announcements, updates, or promotions. Kind of the same rule that we've talked about in a lot of other different platforms. People don't necessarily want to be marketed to and sold to all the time. They're looking for a benefit to the relationship that they are allowing you to have with them. Focus on that relationship. Do favors for others, providing links or mentions, and they may very well reciprocate when you do that. Secondly, choose optimal tweet times. Update when people are actually online to see them. It is essential for making an impact. Again, because people are looking at the feeds that are the tweets that are happening right now and in very recent history, and they may not take the time to scroll through their entire history and see all the different things that have been tweeted. So it is to your advantage to try to figure out when your viewer base, your reader base is online, and tweet during the times that they are there. Post updates at times so that followers are also updating themselves the most, because if they're engaging in Twitter with their own tweets, there's a better chance that they will see what you have to say. Third, respond to questions. Engaging users' questions in a forthright manner can create a sense of closeness unparalleled by other platforms. Again, the immediacy of the conversation and the fact that the conversations happen with a limited number of characters can make for a very quick exchange of give and take. Gather feedback. Asking for opinions or product reviews is a cheap alternative to focus groups. Twitter users are generally happy to share their thoughts when asked politely. As feedback from Twitter can be very helpful, it is good to encourage and reward users who are willing to provide it. After asking a question, acknowledge the people who respond or provide an answer. So, again, Take advantage of the fact that this is a great tool for quick, succinct conversation, and be grateful for the conversations that you have. Finally, provide unique value. Implicitly, every successful Twitter marketing profile must be able to answer the question, why should I follow and listen to the messages that are being offered by this particular brand? There has to be a benefit to the user to follow you. All right, taking a look now at your personal brand. Some best practices for building that with Twitter. First off, complete a complete profile. Complete it completely. Use relevant hashtags in your description so that you can be found. And the more that you do that, because Twitter is searchable from search engines, the more benefit it will be to you. Second, follow those in your area. Follow those important to your interests. It makes you seem credible if you associate with others that are known for being into the same things that you are. Thirdly, create lists around your interest. Use lists to quickly see what others in your area are posting. It's a great way to be able to kind of digest things on a certain topic from various points of view. Fourth, create a follow strategy. Responsiveness will help you become an important person in the network revolving around your areas of interest. So find ways to be able to keep up with certain influencers, those that tend to have a certain authority on some of the things that you're talking about, to be able to follow those that have a keen interest in what you are doing so that you can keep up with their likes, dislikes, all that sort of thing, and make sure that you're keeping up with that. It's part of that listening process of social media. Finally, make sure you post on a regular basis. The author suggests at least 3 times a day. Because of the real-time nature of the postings, they will not always be visible to those who are on Twitter. Original content will help to be able to establish your influence here as well. So don't just post for the sake of posting, but make sure that you're adding true value to the conversation that is going on. And if you're doing it at different times of the day, when different parts of your audience is going to be available, the more that you have the opportunity to be able to have exposure with your audience as a whole. And if you're catching one person at one time, another person at another time, if your content's compelling enough, they retweet it. It gives you that many more opportunities to be able to share your message at different times and to be able to capitalize on when people are actually online as they help you to be able to spread your message. So there you go. There's the notes for Chapter 6, Microblogging. Make sure that you take a look at the study questions on Blackboard and be prepared to discuss things in class.